There have been a number of times that Andrew has joined. Some of the other staff from National has jumped in on those calls from time to time. So it's always been a real treat to jump in, and some just very vulnerable and challenging conversation at times from a lot of people from across the country, different areas.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's been Holden, I would say, is the closest thing there's like a forward party, like someone has emerged as someone that can like speak for the forward party, and like at least on Twitter and on social media, he seems to get so many followers and really be connected.
He's created a great voice, and he's using this platform well to reach people. It's good person to be connected with.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Mateo and Nancy.
What's up?
Good to see you here, Brian. So we had quite a few RSVPs, so we're going to give it just a couple more minutes as people are jumping in. Tonight's format is different. We're not going to go off to a slideshow, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking other than asking questions or directing questions. But I really want to call on you folks. So any questions that you may have, I hope that you'll be ready to chime in or raise your hand. For those who aren't real familiar with the raising hand function with Zoom, that is available under your reactions. There's a little smiley face on the bottom bar, at least on the way my computer's set up, it's on the bottom bar, where you can use your hand raising function. We're going to be using that a bit tonight, hopefully. We certainly want to hear from you and have some open conversation. So, as I mentioned, we have a number of people that are jumping in. Craig, welcome. Trevor, good to see you here. Thank you for jumping in. Appreciate you being here. So it is a little bit of a different format. I hope some of you may have some questions, and we'll be able to get those directed to the best person to answer. We'll see. Some of our out-of-state people that said they'll be here aren't quite here yet. But I do have some other announcements to kick off here at the beginning as people continue to join in. There was a great article. I'm not sure when it was published. I saw it for the first time today. I knew it was coming. But our very own Gabe McGuire was featured in an article today, and the Forward National Party social media shared that around. What a great, they did a great job of capturing your work, Gabe. And we all owe you our thanks for what you've done in jumping in and being a part of things here. And it was really great to talk with. It's Lisa, I believe, right, that I spoke with. And she, even things that weren't captured in the article, she had so many nice things to say about you, and it was great to see. So for those who don't know, we're going to have that article dropped in the chat so you can take a view of that, or of course you can look at the Forward Party National media accounts and find it there. That's a great place because then you can bump it and share it and all that kind of thing too. So certainly appreciate if you find it that way. I got a small piece in that article after a great conversation with Lisa. And I hope as you read that article, you might read those 4 points that I mentioned about Gabe, because those are really the things that we're asking for from all of you. And those 4 pieces that Gabe did that is so critical for everyone is first, just to show up, and second, to respectfully participate, third, to volunteer and get involved, and 4, to take initiative. And if everyone who shows interest in the Pennsylvania Forward Party would follow those 4 steps, we're going to continue to grow and have more and more of an impact. So we did have, since our last meeting, a couple big announcements come out. Prior to the last meeting, we had the announcement in Harrisburg where we had a couple sitting senators align with the Forward Party, and there was some other good news that came out of that event that's still pending. We have a meeting coming up in September where we're going to be able to see hopefully some more good news to share. but a week and a half ago, we were out in Philadelphia and had a candidate, Seth Bluestein, publicly announce that he is affiliated with the Forward Party, which is exciting and got great press. And there's a lot to talk about there. That also means there's a lot of work to do. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you guys to get involved. So maybe as you're getting your questions together, you might have something along those lines. And then this past week in Pittsburgh, we had another great announcement. District Attorney Steven Zappala in Allegheny County publicly announced that he is affiliating with the Forward Party. And what a unique situation that one really is. You think as a new party, we're bringing a new face to politics, and here he is, a long-term incumbent that's registered as a Democrat, but got enough write-in votes on the Republican side to accept the Republican nomination. And we have the opportunity to partner with him and help him, retain that office and continue to bring a balance between accountability and rights for all, the people on both sides of the law, right? So it's exciting that we have that work ahead of us too, and we're glad to have that. Craig, if I can start just a brief introduction on you before we open up for the town hall Q&A, if you don't mind just introducing who you are, where you're located, and how you're involved with the party.
Sure. Thanks, Christian. I'm based in Philadelphia. I am a longtime political consultant, a former Republican, and now a proud forwardist, and working as a political strategist for Forward for our Commonwealth, and looking forward to continuing to have folks who are already in public life affiliate with us, and to have new folks come in and start their careers as forwardists as well as we continue to build.
Great. Thank you, Craig. And Trevor's joining us. Well, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Christian. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your Monday evening to be here. I'm excited to be here. My name is Trevor Maloney. I work with Forward National. I'm the chief of staff to Joel Searby, who essentially functions as our national political director. My home base is Florida, but I've got several years of experience in PA, particularly in the Southeast, out in Bucks, Delco, and Philly itself. So Pennsylvania is near and dear to my heart, and very much looking forward to the conversation tonight.
Great. Thank you, Trevor. Thanks for being here. There are a handful of other people that I think are going to join us. They had committed to being here, but I also had said, that we'd be here for a while, so they might join us later. And as they join, I'll go ahead and introduce them. I'll give a little background of who some of them are. There's every state around the country is facing a lot of the same problems that we are. And there's 12 states that have been identified as battleground states. And then there's still a lot of work being done across many of the other states. Up in New England and in Rhode Island, there's a couple great leaders. Now, I know they had a call themselves tonight, and then they were going to try to jump over. But Jim Palmisano is one of the leaders up there, and hopefully we'll have a chance to see him later. But we've had a chance to connect through a lateral committee that we formed. Franklin's Forwardists is what we call ourselves, and it's really just an opportunity to share our struggles and our successes and challenges so that we can support one another and utilize each other's resources. So we're connected not only with Jim up there in Rhode Island, Clint Eisenhower down in South Carolina, Victor Sheplin, who's part of the Pennsylvania community, but also is a leader down in North Carolina, Rich Herman out in Colorado, Don Matlock out in Montana, Quentin Wilson and Blake. Blake's last name is escaping me. If Trevor, you probably could help me, but it's irrelevant to the rest of you. But they're out in Missouri, and in fact, doing some great leadership out there. So we'll hopefully have a sprinkling of those gentlemen come in. And then Michael Schmidt is from Western Pennsylvania and involved with the No Labels Party. And I know part of the announcement that some of you saw, because I got a few comments, was about us having no labels here as part of the discussion tonight. And I just want to clarify something. We're not affiliated with No Labels. There's not any announcement of any sort of coalition between us. I certainly didn't mean to mislead anyone, but I had a chance to connect with Michael recently. And our conversation was just, it was so great to see the places where we have a similar vision, even though the work of how to accomplish that is different. There certainly is an opportunity for some sharing of resources and some overlap on those who support. So for people who are interested in seeing the presidential campaign of 24, that's not something that Forward Party is going to be involved in. We have a lot of other great work ahead of us at the local level, and we're going to be focused on that. But there's a chance to connect people with some other individuals in our state. And I know they also have their eye on some local races and looking to support us and get involved with what we're doing too. So it's great to build those types of synergistic relationships. And hopefully Michael will have a chance to join in later. He actually works in an international business and is on a call with Japan right now. So that was his interruption for being here. But you know, as a town hall meeting, you know, we have a number of our other state leaders that are part of the call right now. Feel free to jump in and answer, but also bring your own questions. You know, as we have Craig and Trevor with us, and as some of these other leaders may jump in, it's important for, you know, good, candid conversation. For those who jumped on the call early, one of the things that we were discussing as everyone was jumping in was Holden Collada's Twitter Spaces. That's a great resource for weekly conversation where you have an opportunity to contribute your own thoughts and ask here within the state. I thought it was important for us just to break from our normal routine and hear from you all. So again, for those who aren't familiar, there's a reaction button on the bottom of your screen for raising your hand, and we're going to try to do things by raising of hands. So I'll kick us off because I've been in a lot of group meetings with Trevor, but haven't had a chance to ask a whole lot of questions. And I'll make this a simple one, and then we can get to John because I see a hand raised.
John.
But your experience, you know, you've been with Forward for a few months now. And I think it's important for everyone to get some context as far as what you see coming in to a movement that had already kind of, you know, started walking down the path, and right at a time that we made a pivot in strategy. And where are we on the timeline compared to your day one, where you expected that we might be, both nationally and here in Pennsylvania? Versus where we are today, and what your expectations are.
Sure. So for those of you who don't know, I sort of guide nationally our what we call objectives and key results, which is largely focused around the recruitment of candidates and elected officials to become Forwardists. So, you know, every day, every week, I'm engaging in this work. So let me just give you a top line. You know, we announced this pivot, the strategic pivot, in May that would focus largely on the recruitment efforts. To date, we have already 21 elected officials across our battleground states. We've got another 15 or 16 candidates who've already agreed to be Forwardist candidates. And we've got a pipeline that just in the past week has grown 30%. So we're now looking at a pipeline of 181 prospects across the battleground. And these are people who are being actively recruited. So that doesn't include a long list of people who are potential prospects who we haven't reached out to yet. So that is where we stand in terms of the data. I will say, you know, over the time that I've been here in the 4.5 months or so that I've been a part of this, The bulk of that time now has been post pivot, as I like to say. But I can tell you the first 2, maybe 3 weeks of this transition was really challenging. We had a lot of volunteers who invested a lot of time, a lot of their own money, frankly, into a strategy that we were coming up short, and that's the truth. And we were transparent about that. And I think under the great leadership of our CEO Lindsay William Draft, we corrected. But it was a painful transition. There were a lot of feelings involved. There were a lot of doubts about our ability to actually capitalize on this strategy. There were a lot of folks who, many of our leaders, people who are in this work day in, day out, who were just unsure of our ability to get the job done. We had a call earlier today, as we do every week, with the battleground leaders. And what was really heartening from that call was to hear leader after leader who would, acknowledge that at the beginning of this pivot, they had a lot of doubts, and were quite critical. And I can tell you, because I was the face of the pivot to a lot of the leaders, so I was getting a lot of the blowback, and they were very, very critical. But it was really heartening to hear today those same leaders saying, I get it now. We're leaning into this work, and we're starting to see the benefits. We're starting to see the theory of the case, that if we really put a face to the party, if we put leaders up there who can flesh out what it means to be a forwardist, the people will come. Politics is about people. People will follow leaders, and we've got to put candidates and elected officials out there to help lead this party. That is really making the difference, and I'm excited for where we are headed. I think, frankly, I think we're on pace with where I thought we would be, because I knew the quality of the leaders that we had across our battleground states. I'm super impressed by the pipeline, though. These 181 prospects that are being actively recruited. I think we're going to see, as I often say, a hockey stick moment, right? Where there's maybe a bit of a flat line for a bit of time, but as we start having more of these conversations, and as we get closer to the election cycle next year, you're going to start to see this huge uptick in people who are declaring as forwardists. So there's a lot of good news in the short term, but I think even more good news to come as we look to the medium and long term, Christian.
Thank you, Trevor. All right, John.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is John Welchel. I am relatively new to Pennsylvania and the Philadelphia area. I'm kind of curious for folks who might know. I did some research. I know there was news in the past year or two about key issues like ranked choice voting and open primaries. I'm kind of curious what the legislative status is on these, because I saw some news about it from 2022, but haven't seen much about 2023 and don't really know where it stands. If anyone does know much about those things.
Yes, there is currently a bill in the PA House of Representatives to pass a limited open primaries to allow independents to vote in the May primaries. One of our affiliates is Ballot PA is looking to have some volunteers phone bank in September. We're probably going to ask some of our supporters to help them out as well, and hopefully we'll get that passed. For ranked choice voting, another bill has been introduced that would allow municipalities the opportunity to enact ranked choice voting in their municipal elections. And the fight for independent redistricting is always ongoing. The problem in Pennsylvania is that we do not have ballot initiatives, so everything has to go through the General Assembly. And the best way to do that is to take each piece one at a time to help build momentum for the rest. So most likely the lowest hanging fruit is the open primaries bill, and there is we're hoping to get a package of election. It included with the election legislation that needs to pass for the presidential election next year. Here's hoping.
It's a great question, John. And I think there's one other piece that I think helps to answer that. And Craig, I'm going to punt this to you if you're willing. When we celebrate someone being an affiliate with the Forward Party or running as a Forward candidate, there's a pledge that we present to them. Can you speak a bit on that and specifically how that ties into John's question?
So yes, we do ask we do ask folks who want to declare themselves to be affiliated with us and ask for our endorsement to sign a pledge that really speaks to the fundamental values of the party. It's not as I'm sure all of you know, it's not a particular platform pledge with respect to various policy issues. But it speaks to the values of the party, the idea of civil discourse, the idea of working across the aisle, seeking practical solutions to problems, putting the people first, listening to your community. And they're signing up to participate in politics and governing in that way. We also ask people to take a position on these reform questions of open primaries and ranked choice voting. Now, obviously, it depends on the office that they're seeking, whether or not they're taking that position just as a citizen or as somebody who might be able to influence it. For example, obviously, the district attorney in Pittsburgh last week, Governor Whitman, in introducing him, made a point to say, we realize that these issues are not within your purview as the DA. It's not something you would be doing as a government official, but we're asking you to stand with us, as a citizen and to agree with us in principle on these issues. So we've made that really a core, and therefore I think we're very much identified with it. The fact that there is movement towards an open primary bill, even relatively limited open primary bill in Pennsylvania, is extraordinary. It really shows kind of the wind in the sails of what Forward represents, a new kind of politics in this country. Pennsylvania is one of only 8 states in the union that have fully closed primaries. It's had them for among the longest, going back to the 1930s. As was pointed out, in order to get change in political reform in Pennsylvania, you have to go through the existing politicians in Harrisburg. So they have to essentially vote against. They have to be persuaded that their long-term political interest is served by maybe hurting their short-term political interest and voting for reform. So it's a hard thing to do, but we're moving forward with this, and there's a good shot. Really is a good shot. Certainly the best shot there's ever been. To pass at least that reform this year. And that just shows that there's really a lot of, that the existing politicians recognize there is a constituency for political reform that Forward represents that's out there.
Thank you, Craig. While we wait for someone else to raise their hand with a question, I see that Victor's joined us. I also know that he wasn't sure if he'd be in a place where he could talk. I was hoping you might be able to give a brief update on what's happening down in North Carolina, so we can understand how Pennsylvania can support and celebrate that.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So as Christian mentioned, I do spend, Philly's near and dear to my heart. I grew up here, or in Philly. I'm not currently there, but I did spend most of this year in Philly, and I did have a chance to meet a lot of you. I might have actually met more of the PA folks in person than I did for the North Carolina team so far. I just got to North Carolina, and I'll be here for the rest of the year probably. But yeah, so I'm part of the executive committee in North Carolina. We are pursuing a number of things. So, as Trevor mentioned, for all the battleground states, getting candidates to affiliate or to run us Forward affiliates or actual candidates is a top priority. So that is definitely a big initiative here. We just had our first affiliate a couple of weeks ago. It's a woman who's running for city council, for town council, town commissioner in Hillsborough. Not that any of you would necessarily know that, but yeah. So there's been good progress in that. Again, it's something that is definitely creating a much better connection with people than kind of this kind of long-term vision of building a new party. That's something that is a little bit more difficult to get people engaged in, especially as we start to ramp up to the 2024 election. But yeah, and then to go back to the ranked choice voting question, that is something that's kind of state by state. It's going to, these electoral reforms are going to depend on what the individual states sort of laws allow for. So North Carolina is also not a sort of a voter initiative state. So everything does have to go through the legislature here. So that is something that we are working with our ranked choice voting organizations in the state to try to support and see how we can get that passed. Other than that, I think it's just similar things. We're trying to organize, we're trying to build the kind of the grassroots movements. Get more volunteers. Start to really focus on fundraising. We don't have that many people that have any sort of political experience. It's just kind of everyday people, trying to do something different and make a change. And so fundraising is new for a lot of us. We also have to for PA. What we're doing is we're trying to pursue sort of party level ballot access. So instead of pursuing kind of individual positions and getting the signatures required for that specific position, we've been trying to sort of get out there and get enough signatures to get us sort of access and voter registration ability across the state. Going into the fall, I think it's really trying to ramp up all of those efforts. Working with national, trying to get a solid fundraising operation in place. Trying to get on college campuses. We have, a number of initiatives and a number of folks that are very engaged and, happen to be on college campuses already, which is helpful. Just trying to trying to build momentum, we have a pretty healthy pipeline of other candidates. And, I think as we start to get, sort of some of those folks on board, it's really trying to then build the organization around them and trying to sort of get sort of their people plugged into Forward as well.
Thank you, Victor. Appreciate that. And hopefully everyone understands the importance of paying attention to those parallels and how this movement is beyond just Pennsylvania, and how the successes that we have here and that they have in North Carolina and that the other states have are also just so important to continue growing and getting the attention that we need, especially from the national media and other places. Before I go to David, I saw that Matt Grant was able to join us. Matt, are you in a place where you can just give a quick introduction of yourself? And then I want to get to David's question.
Yes, thank you so much. Happy to be here, everyone. My name is Matt Grant, and I'm the Newport County lead for the Forward Party here in Rhode Island. Just wanted to join real quick and kind of be a fly on the wall, hear about all the great things that are happening in Pennsylvania, and be that source of support. Just let you guys know that we are here in Rhode Island as well, and we're trying to build the movement here. So keep up the good work, and we're a resource if you ever want to reach out.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
And all of these speakers, if anyone has any questions that they want to direct to them, please feel free to do that. David.
Thank you. My name is David Stile. I'm Southeast Pennsylvania, Bucks County. I'm a retired state legislator, 16 years, 8 terms. So my question is, are we working with the other organizations that are aligned on the same issues, particularly Fair Districts PA and Committee of 70, which is working on the open primary issue? Are we coordinating with them, and are we working separately, independently of them, or with them? And the last thing I want to say is we will be moving to Minnesota in about 2 months. So we'll try and pick up with Forward out there. Thank you.
David, we appreciate you being here and for that question, and thank you for the contributions you've given over the past year. You've definitely brought some tough questions and some good insight at times. So we'll miss you. Trevor might know the name of who to connect you with in Minnesota if you'd like to stay engaged, and certainly we welcome your contributions here at any time. The answer to your question is all of the above. And some of it is still, in the early going where we're continuing to build those relationships. But yes, we are working with the other organizations across the state, both here at the state level and from a national support level. We've been able to have conversations and make connections with people, with the Committee of 70 and Ballot PA and some of the other organizations that are doing this same work. Beyond just that group, there's a lot of different organizations. March on Harrisburg is another one that's very focused on voter reform, and continue to have conversations with them and find the ways that we can, celebrate the places where we are fully aligned and help move those things, in a good direction. I know there may be some others that want to respond to David's question as well. If Trevor, Craig, or Ben want to chime in at all, feel free.
So like to stress that we have been getting a lot of help from independent Pennsylvanians, and we're trying to provide a lot of help to them as well. So yeah, and we do want to stress that we want to find partners wherever we can. So if you know any organizations that we might not know of, and might have connections, please feel free to contact one of the people on leadership, and we'll start to try to form relationships with them.
I would just add real quickly that at the national level, Forward has been a real convening force in the political reform movement, physically bringing together, as well as just talking to folks in the various organizations that are working in a similar space. Inevitably there are differences. Some of these organizations are purely issue advocacy on one particular thing, whereas we're trying to build a party, which is something different. But wherever there's overlap, we're trying to work together in sort of, wherever there's sort of conceptual overlap, but also where there's geographical overlap. So when there's organizations working in Pennsylvania, we want to plug them in with us, and that would be the same in other states as well.
Yeah, I'd like to toss in and actually kind of, hi everybody, I'm Jack Merritt. I'm one of the longer term Forwardists here in Pennsylvania. But since Matt introduced himself, just as an aside, so I've been a supporter financially and via social media of No Labels since I guess it was 2015, Matt, 2016, about the time you guys got started, and became a Forwardist because I really like the localness of the idea of the grassroots effort of what the Forward Party's trying to do. But that said, our core value of trying to find areas where people of both sides can meet in the middle and find the things, as Governor Whitman used to say, that we agree on, right? And work outwards from where we agree on instead of trying to work inwards from the poles where we disagree. And so I am enervated, Matt, to see you here, and would love it if you could pass on your contacts that you might have in Pennsylvania that we could invite to join us, and we can join where we are all aligned with the same outcome. And so it's the same thing. A number of us here, I'll let them say who they are, but we've got people who are players in other independent parties in the state of Pennsylvania, and people who are players in Pennsylvania Independent Party, and still are. And they joined the Forward Party because our point is to bring all of these people together so that we have something that represents that 67-70% in the middle. So it's anyway, I think it was a great question. And I'm very impressed that somebody actually stood there for 8 years or 8 terms, was it? 8 years? the legislator.
And
16 years, 8
16
terms.
years, 8 terms. Yeah, that's true dedication and commitment. Thank you for your service, David.
one other group that we have a lot of alignment with, just to mention before I get over to Gus, is Represent Us. They do a great job at creating conversation. It's good to follow them because they're going to provoke people into thought. They have a number of influencers that can create conversation and attract people in. They have the American Democracy Summit that they're going to be hosting at the end of September. They've invited Andrew Yang, who's one of our national party chairs, to be one of the speakers. So that's another one that, while their work is different, there's a lot of alignment, and certainly when it comes to those core, voting reform aspects, there's a great opportunity to work together. But Gus, you've patiently waited with your hand up. Thank you for bringing a question and for being here.
No problem. This is actually to add a little bit more to the answers to what David asked. In my prior experiences with other minor parties, one of the things that we have to remember is these nonprofits, they cannot endorse a political party. However, a political party can align or endorse a nonprofit in specific efforts. So in one of my previous affiliations in a different minor party, we were working with Fair Districts when they were advocating for an independent citizens commission and for gerrymandering reform. And when we publicly said we support Fair Districts for this, on their website, they added one of our endorsers is this particular minor party. So that is something we can do with relationships with, although we may not agree with every activist group 100%, where we do find common ground and in those issues, we can reach out to them and say, we would like to publicly endorse your nonprofit as the Ford Party of Pennsylvania in this specific effort. And if they should feel to put that on their website, they may. And that also would allow a lot of activists in those organizations to take a larger look at our party. And also it would tell the public what it is that we do stand for in Pennsylvania.
I just want to give an introduction to Gus, who you just heard from my point of view. Early on, as we were getting the Forward Party started here in Pennsylvania, when there was only still really 3 of us, we were able to connect with Gus, and he was gracious with his time and shared some great information and insight. And he joined us on a frameworks call at one point, and he challenged me with a very important question that really is very central to what he just responded to there. And that's are you a party or an advocacy group? And that changed my way of thinking and really helped to change the direction of Pennsylvania forward. And at that time, he was working somewhere else, and he's jumping in here and contributing immensely. And what a great resource. I certainly encourage any of you through the rest of this call. Hopefully Gus doesn't mind being on the hot seat. He's a great one to ask questions to. So I'm going to invite him to be one of those people that can answer some questions.
I don't mind. Ask me anything you want. And if I don't know the answer, I probably know someone who does.
Thank you for being here, Gus. Appreciate you. I'm going to, since we don't have a hand up right now, I'd like to call on Nancy, if you don't mind. And part of why, I mean, we met through another organization also, and you came along and just kind of listened first. But even during this call, you're busy doing the work. You're organizing. I saw some of your messages. And a lot of us, this is new, being in political space. And while we use the word organizing, people don't really know what that means. And I thought maybe you could take a minute and explain what does organizing mean to you?
Thank you, Christian. That's a great question. What organizing to me means is, offering people, in this case, and hopefully in any case, a different way to think about something that they probably do think about. it has everything to do with conversation, just talking to people. I happen to come from a history, a background of organizing, you know, at the grassroots level. So I did cold calls, for example, out of the phone book for about 10 years for a youth program. Was in New York, and I also spent many holidays and Friday nights and, you know, Sunday mornings canvassing, going door to door, talking, you know, putting up a table on a street corner, taking a clipboard to a movie line, you know, all kinds of environments to begin a conversation that can help change politics in this country, which we sorely need. And I think, you know, conversation is key to this, because we're talking about values, we're talking about concepts that are deep in our country's soul. And so we need to talk about how that looks for people right now. That's my feeling.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that.
I have a schedule set up for the next, we have 3 or 4 more weeks left on the schedule that I have set up to do tabling in Philadelphia. And if you come out with me, I guarantee you'll get your money's worth.
See, and she starts by just telling you it's all conversation, which is great because that's really all it is. But meanwhile, she had already been in the chat inviting you guys to connect with her so that she has the contact information to help you have the invitation to be there with her live, where she's already set up an event. Every piece of that can be simple. It takes a gifted person and committed person to really pull it all together. But if we all contribute a little bit, it can remain simple. So for anyone who's interested in being part of organizing, you know, just showing up and being part of that conversation, you'll see that it really can be a simple thing. It can be very natural, even though it might feel awkward the first time or before you do it. Once you get there, it becomes much more natural. So I invite anyone who might be tempted to reach out, especially if you're in the Philadelphia area, reach out to Nancy. Mateo, I see your hand.
Hey, Christian. So I was just wondering about the Pennsylvania's forward party's infrastructure when it comes to like county level, for example. How much is that like organized? And what I mean by that is like, do you guys like help choose local leads, and then the local leads, you know, they have the freedom to like organize their local chapter in their local areas, and they report back to you guys? Like, what's like the level of organization between state leads, local leads, and volunteers?
Thank you. Great question. First question I'm going to ask you is, what county are you in?
Oh no, this is Mateo from the Franklin forward this.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. Great. Okay. Yeah. So how we do this, we're looking for county leads to fill in to fill in each county, right? So we have regional chairs that we elected. We divided the state into 6 regions. So we have those people helping to identify leadership opportunities in each county within their region. And we're still building that out. We need more people to step up and lead their county. But with each region and with each county, while we're here as the state to give support, we really offer a lot of independent. This is bottoms up kind of politics. We want people on the ground to help make those decisions and to help identify the people that are right to represent them when it comes to office and be part of the conversation when it comes to vetting candidates. We want them to be part of identifying the leadership for within the party. All of that is really driven from the bottoms up, but first we have to reach them, and we have to give enough structure to get them engaged in that conversation.
Yeah, I would add that if you are in the Northwest region, we are still looking for a regional lead up there. if you want to give a lot of support in helping build our party and you live up there, please throw your hat into the ring and think about becoming the regional chair for that portion of the state.
Yes, John.
Hi, I'll jump in with another one while we're waiting. Curious how we go about knowing what the current opinions are of the people who can make a difference on these electoral reform issues with the legislators. Do we have a good way of understanding, oh, this person's, for open primaries, this person's not, we're missing 10 legislators, we're missing 20, things like that to help us understand kind of how far we are in some of these issues, as we take them one by one, as you put it, Ben?
I would strongly recommend to first to find out for yourself by writing your local state representative and state senator and get them on record for yourself, because not only does that accomplish that task, you also accomplish the getting it on their radar that their constituents care about this issue, and we need as many people to do so as possible.
Got it. Love it.
I would like to add a little bit to what Ben said there. Also, something you can do is if there's a piece of legislation that you're paying attention to for whatever it is, see where its status is. Is it just a memorandum? Is it actually a bill someone proposed? Once it gets to the point that it's a bill that someone proposed, then you personally can do the work as a constituent. Because let's be honest, your representative isn't going to really want to hear anybody from anyone but their constituents. So if you work with that person as a constituent and say, hey, this is something really important to me, and if you can set up a meeting, if you can get up with an activist group and maybe set up training with them, that may get them on board if they're not already on board. And then once there's enough co-sponsors, then after that, the pressure is making sure that the chair of those committees get it on the agenda. And that's another big process. But what you can do locally, the biggest thing you can do is find a bill that's actually been submitted and try to get your representative to co-sponsor that bill.
Mateo.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask another question. Will the Pennsylvania Forward Party also be looking at local initiatives as well? Well, because what I'm trying to get at is I learned that Pennsylvania localities could push for home rule charters, by vote basically. And I was wondering, seeing whatever local government or municipal government has home rule, would be possible at looking at those areas and seeing if possible pushing for voting reforms. And what I mean by that is, push voting reforms in County A that has home rule, and use that data to back up whatever voting reform you guys are trying to push for. Like if Pennsylvania's pushing for ranked choice voting, this is basically a question / advice, because this is what I'm doing in Arkansas. Pushing for that, using the data that we obtain, and using that data as talking points to push for much more advocacy of that and trying to gain legislators on our side. So is that something that Pennsylvania Forward Party will also try to do, but most specifically with local governments?
I was waiting to see if somebody else wanted to jump in. I would say it's not a major focus of us with everything of ours with everything else that we're working on, and yet I understand your suggestion there. The more that we can get that conversation and to be part of the public discussion and help people understand how it benefits them in having choice and feeling represented and gaining proper engagement, I think it's a win. So when the opportunity is there, I think it's definitely something to pursue. And yet we have so many other things to do in building the party and finding and identifying candidates that can help to be that voice. I'm not sure when we'll be putting that work in, and yet I think it's very, it'll be taken under advisement. I appreciate you bringing that up, and I do know that that is an option in some places. Michael.
Yeah, hello everybody. This is Mike Zerker. I'm in southeastern PA in Chester County. This is my first time participating in a call, so really just trying to learn more about the Forward Party. But my question kind of circles back to something that was mentioned a little bit earlier in the call about the question of is Forward Party an advocacy organization or a party? And that was one of my questions coming in, was just trying to understand what happens. I mean, I understand open primaries and working against gerrymandering and so on. I think those are important, very important issues, and will do a lot to help solve the sort of political dysfunction we have. But what happens when the Forward Party, makes progress on those things, and then, voters are looking for the party's platform on other issues? How do you become a party in that way, as opposed to, this initial focus on these other important issues?
Yeah,
thank you.
Appreciate the question, Michael. I'm comfortable answering that. Trevor, feel free to jump in, or someone else as well. But we are here and building this party to be a credible, viable, durable party. For anyone who's spent any time speaking with Joel Searby, you've heard those words before. He repeats that over and over again. They ring in my head, and absolutely, that is the goal. We're not here just to make changes in voting reform. That's the beginning. What we're here to do is make sure that the people have a voice in politics and that they feel represented. And that comes by having a diversity of thought, always able to have a seat at the table, to have honest discussion, civil discourse, where we can find solutions that aren't the talking points that we're arguing over. They're somewhere beyond those talking points. They're where we can really listen and understand the other side and get somewhere that we can truly move the country forward. That's the way that I embrace it. So if anyone else for Trevor or other leaders or speakers here want to jump in and add anything else to that, I'll just pause a second.
I'll just make a quick addition to that, and sorry I'm off camera, just charging my iPad here. But to your point, Michael, I think the two-party system that we've been living under for decades now has really conditioned us to think of a political party along the lines of what we already see. What we're trying to do here at Forward is something quite novel, in that we're not setting a policy platform as a party. We look to our candidates to take positions on particular policy issues, and we leave it up to the voters to decide. So yes, we are a political party. Yes, we're building that political party, but we are doing it in a different way. So the national party sets values and principles. The state parties set issue priorities, particular issues that are important to the state. I often use the example of Florida. Climate change for Florida can be different from other states, but particularly in Miami, it's really about flooding and making sure that that we have protection from intense storms. So that could be our approach to a particular issue, and then it's up to the candidates then to offer specific policy solutions to those issue areas. So it's a novel approach. It doesn't mean we're not a party. It just means we're doing party politics in a different way.
Yeah, let me jump in on that as well, just a little bit. It is true that we have been conditioned to think of the parties as having not just sort of a platform, but really an ideology. it's the way we've come to see it. And so people hear the word party, forward party. Well, what's the ideology? And we're trying to change the way people think, because even the two legacy parties didn't used to be this way. And it really wasn't even that long ago. You had, just to stick with Pennsylvania, you had not that long ago, you had a pro-life Democratic governor. At the same time, you had a pro-choice Republican United States senator. That was just in Pennsylvania, not very long ago. Both parties used to be bigger tents. They used to allow a diversity of opinion. Now it's been crowded out, and there's almost no ideological overlap between the two sides. So Forward stands for a different approach, where you could have people who disagree on issues, even very controversial issues like that one, who still are members of the party. That means, yes, they disagree, but they can't be enemies. They're on the same team. They don't have an alternative team to be the enemy against, which leads to at least the possibility of practical common sense solutions, as opposed to the idea of just sort of destroying the other side. I think that's what most Americans want, but they don't know where to look for it until we come along and show them how to do it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Good question. Kyle.
Hey everyone, I'm Kyle DiMarino. I'm the Southeast Regional Chair, for those that don't know me. So I did just want to give a quick shout out to Chris Woodward, who's on the call, who is on the ballot as a forwardist. So he's running as an independent under the Forward Party political body. And he's running for auditor in Lower Heidelberg Township in Berks County. So major shout out to all the people who put in so much research time to identifying these seats where there was no one on the ballot in the general election. And as far as we know, he is going to be the only candidate on the ballot for the seat. So Chris, if you want to introduce yourself, we appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And thank you so much for bringing this opportunity to me. Last year around this time, I heard that Christy Todd Whitman and Joe Sestak, a Republican and Democrat, were getting together to form a party. And that's all I needed to hear. And Craig, I think the ideology is exactly what you said. We want to work together, even if we have differences. That's a fine ideology. That works for me. And I'm really hopeful that there's another candidate. I often thought that, when there was a race with a single candidate, whether it was local or statewide or whatever, that to me said, communism, single party. So if somebody else comes along and wants to run for that position, that's fantastic. But my goal is to be a voice for that reasonableness. It's just, after I read the article and then the book about the duopoly, and I can't remember the authors, it just really kind of fixed in my mind that we have a mess. And, I kind of owe it, I think, to my kids and my kids and, other young people to do this work now to get this established. So Kyle, I'm so grateful you found this opportunity for me to actually do something for the party. So thank you so much. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Chris. We really do appreciate you and excited that you stepped up for that opportunity. Thank you, Kyle. Brian.
Yeah, Christian, I didn't see. Did the representative from No Labels get on the call?
I did not see Michael Schmidt or.
No.
Yep.
No.
I have not seen him jump onto the call. No. So we'll look to have him join us another time. I apologize for the tease there. Was really looking forward to having him speak to you all. But we're going to do what we can to share information. While again, please understand the difference between sharing information and encouraging others and affiliating. Not everyone in this call is okay with what No Labels is doing, and there's concern over what some of their work is. And yet there is so much similarity as far as the motivation. And it's important to be able to respect those differences and have conversations and talk those through. I mean, it's a good practice for who we are when it comes to diversity of thought and being willing to graciously engage in conversation, even when not fully aligned. There's others on this call that are going to be fully engaged with no labels, just as you are here. And that's also respected, and appreciate you sharing your opinions and information that you might have for those who need to hear it or want to hear it.
Well, maybe I'll put in the chat. Maybe we could do a quick poll. Is there a way I could phrase the question whether people would be happy, whether people would encourage or discourage like working with them more? Is that worth doing? No.
Let me just jump in for a second, because I've been part of No Labels since 2010, I think a year after they formed. They're doing something very different in this election, and for some members, that's an issue. What we always supported was to bring the two sides together. We supported bipartisan action without supporting specific policy positions. We just wanted the two parties to discuss and to bring a bipartisan solution. To that end, they working with a number of legislators, including the one who represents me, Representative Fitzpatrick, they have formed this caucus of bipartisan members, which I think now has something like 56 members, evenly divided between problem solvers caucus, they call us, evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats. And that's the issue that we need to support. Now, when they get into the point where they're actually being a party and proposing that perhaps they might offer candidates for president, vice president next year, I think there's some risk to that. I applaud the idea. I think it's an idea we should talk about. I don't know where it'll go, but again, it is the whole idea of bipartisan conversation and policy discussions that I am really concerned about. And that's what this organization, and one of the reasons I wanted to get well with Forward Party, because for me, the whole purpose of the party and what we want to focus on is to create fair ballot access. Ultimately, the people will decide where they want to go on a particular issue. The politicians can make their pitch for one side or the other, but there has to be fair access to the ballot. And we should absolutely oppose and in any way we can, anything that restricts that ballot access. And we're seeing too much today that some parties, and particularly I'd have to say the Republican Party, my party, has concentrated on keeping people not giving them fair access to the ballot. And that's where I think we need to concentrate our efforts. When we get that done, we can move on to lots of other things. But let's do that first.
I appreciate your insight and comments there, David. Thank you. So, well, we're right at the end of an hour, and it's a great conversation. If there's any final questions, we have probably time for one more, but I don't want to keep anyone beyond our scheduled time either. I think this has been great to hear from many of you during this conversation, and something that we should probably do on some sort of regular basis, while having many times where we're just keeping everyone up to date with the progress of the state and the opportunities to get involved. Certainly there's plenty of committee meetings and committee work to get done. We love the fact that you took this past hour to be here and be part of this conversation, and would love to get you involved in other ways as well. So thank you for those out of state guests who came in and joined us. And certainly Craig and Trevor, thank you for taking the time to be a part of this conversation as well. We're going to continue to do some work here in Pennsylvania, and we need you all to do it with us. So you're invited. I hope you'll answer. Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Christian, is there a link? is there a link to the link that was sent out from Maryland for what we would ask our representative or senator to join us or align with us?
Christian, the pledge document.
The pledge document.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that can be circulated to anybody who wants it.
Yes, I'll make sure to get that over to you. If anybody wants to jump on this call, I think I could actually, if you guys want to stay on the call for just a minute, I'll hop over and post it in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. I'll stay on.
I have a PDF copy of that.
Well, since we're all friends here and people are staying on, I had a couple times I almost wanted to say something about both the no labels and the platform and like what is forward if it becomes a party. I think that was maybe Michael Zurcher who asked that question, because I struggled with that as well. And while I do feel that the caucus angle can get us so far, people do want to know, what does forward stand for? And when we say just these values, or if we don't give them things, we have to get good at explaining why we're saying what we're saying, and meaning that better candidates who are solution oriented will trickle down to doing the work on the issues that matter to us. So the first order of business is improving candidate quality through election reform. And by candidates, then I mean electeds, right? People who make the rules. And then each state, like Trevor was explaining, will come up with what are their important state priorities, what's important, top 5, top 7 in their state. And candidates who want to run under our banner or get our endorsement need to come to us and show that they are solution oriented and have their own policies or platform to address those issues that are important to us. And as Trevor sort of pointed out, or maybe it was Craig, a border state may rank high on immigration. Pennsylvania may rank higher on election reform. And it's not for us to say we nationally, besides election reform, we nationally believe we are pro this or con that if you want to be forward. We want people who are going to come and serve the will of the people and listen to the residents and work towards solutions moving forward instead of this lose-lose, winner-take-all situation we find ourselves in. So I struggle with that as well. And I think everyone, especially on leadership, needs to get really good at a short, brief explanation of how the ideology turns into results and improves life for everyday Pennsylvanians. So we capture people's attention that we're a serious bunch with actual goals. We're just not going to tell candidates what they have to say or do, because that's what we're fighting against. We don't have to endorse them if we don't like their policy is too extreme on A or B, but we're not going to tell them what their policy is. We will choose to affiliate or accept or endorse. And anyone can correct me if I misspoke.
No, Rachel, I completely agree with you. And listening to Trevor and Craig speak earlier, because it's something I also been struggling with. And I think I've been struggling because, like Craig said, we're all kind of programmed to a certain degree. And I personally have to shed the word platform and change it to priorities. It's the same thing, but I do agree. It's just a change in language. It's if we, like you said, if we come up with those few priorities and we say, as Forward Pennsylvania, these are our priorities. So whenever somebody says, well, what does the Forward Party stand for? It says, well, I can tell you what the Forward Party of Pennsylvania stands for. And then if we have that solid, like 3, 4, 5 things, open primaries, ranked choice voting, whatever, if we have that solid thing agreed upon amongst leadership, then I think it'll make life easier for all of us that are trying to get this thing going.
Yeah, and this is great, because this is an opportunity for us to demonstrate that we can agree on at one level and very likely not agree on the other. So Gus, I'm just going to leverage what triggered this was when you were saying, I could tell you what Pennsylvania stands for. Well, I'm reasonably sure I could tell you what the priorities are in Pennsylvania, right? But because not for nothing else, my good friend and partner, Rachel, and I spent the better part of the last 10 months trying to figure that out with polls and all the stuff we've been doing. But that said, I can't begin to tell you what Pennsylvania stands for. So I can tell you that the economy is absolutely a high priority in Pennsylvania, but what an individual candidate wants to do about the priority of the economy, that could be a wild divergent view on that. And it could be based on their experience with their legacy party. It could just be their experience, right? And so at least from my perspective, one man's perspective, I'm looking for somebody who shares my priority and has the value to try to move the needle on that priority by finding common ground with the other side. I don't want somebody who shares my priority but is so hung up on the polar aspect of their version of it that nothing's ever going to get done because they won't compromise or they won't move. And then we'll just end up having another us and them version, right?
Maybe
So that's kind of my place. And Chris, when you get into there, I'll be the first person to throw the rotten tomato through the transom at you if I see.
All right. Maybe it's better, instead of saying with the other side, is to work with other people.
Sure.
Keep sides out of it. I mean, that's
the idea.
Goal, right, of government, is to solve the people's problems.
Sure.
It's not. I sent a note to somebody today about, your job is to take care of the constituents' issues, not your party's issues. That's not it.
Right.
So
I think that's brilliant. I do think there's a danger when we confound the word priority with the word platform, to Gus's. Because to me, a priority is the big box, the thing that's keeping me up at night, women's reproductive rights. A platform is, are you for it or against it type of thing, right? People get hung up on the platform thing, right?
Yeah, and Chris, you're absolutely right. It's something that I challenge myself to do, and I fail just as much as I succeed. Language matters. It really does. And we all find ourselves falling into the certain repetitive nature because you hear it da 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 all the time, and so it's a constant thing. Like I got to teach myself not to say platform, to talk about priorities, and just like I try my best never to use the words liberal or conservative or any of those, because I firmly believe those divide people more than anything else. But I fail at that. Every now and then I'll say, oh well, that's more of a conservative idea, and I catch myself, no, that's not because no one really owns an idea. And that's what I keep trying to remind myself. No one owns an idea.
Yeah, these are great points. Those words do matter. Language matters. And, I always think a lot of us are on a lot of calls every week, every month. And we have a lot of forward like words and philosophy in our mind. But when we talk to new people, I just lost my train of thought. When we talk to new people, it came by these months of work Jack and I were doing on our priorities. And we thought we were two-phasing it and coming up with, and what do we want the policies to be? What is our stance? And it turned out through the summit that actually, no, that's not actually what we're trying to do. And it took months of work and conversations to realize, no, we're identifying our priorities and we want leaders to come with solutions. And that's the end of the project. It's not for us to say, well, on the scale of 1 to 5, with this being the most quote far left, bad word, quote far right, we don't have really any other way of talking about ideals, and that we would have moderate or centrist, and we scrap that entire part of the project. And so to think that someone on the street can have that thought process in a moment's conversation, it took us a long time to understand what we're here to do and how we're trying to do it.
Well, as Joseph Goebbels used to say, you just keep saying it over and over again, and people will start to understand it.
Yeah, you could have picked somebody else.
Yeah,
I could have, but that's a really good example.
One thing I was thinking, are you guys familiar with the song "Rich Man North of Richmond" or
dude,
whatever?
that song has made me cry like 10 times.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw that video and I was like, maybe I could share that on social media and with some sort of prompt about like, is this forward or whatever? And then I was running through some of the things you just said about, is it a conservative song? Is this you know what I mean? Is this reflect what we say? And then, I got down that rabbit hole. I'm like, I just better not do it.
Yeah,
But,
honestly, that song is purely about the struggles that everyone feels, that the people, the rich men, and the song is rich men, but the rich men and women north of Richmond don't seem to really care about their constituents. And that's what that song is about. Purely 100%.
Yeah. And so I was thinking, like, eventually we will need like some artist, or at least vote, someone to speak for the things that we stand for, and how will we identify that person, right? Like if it's a song such as that, not that one, but in general, or even just someone that we like want to get behind to carry the message,
Right.
we
My
have to know what we're looking for.
my personal opinion is if we do it right, they'll come to us.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. It's like, I mean, for those who don't know, I was in the Navy for 20 years, and the first thing about leadership, especially in the military, is you lead from the front. You go in, you do the job. If you do the job right, people will follow because they want to follow. They're not going to follow because you preach an ideology. They're not going to follow because you barked out an order. They're going to follow because they see you as an example. They see you as a mentor. They see you as somebody who is going to take care of them, and that's why they follow. It's the same thing in everything else in life. It's not exclusive to the military.
Yep.
Just one quick point. I reached out to Holden about an hour before this call to see how he and I could conspire to reach Oliver Anthony for a Twitter space conversation, because some of the things he's done in the reaction to that song over the last week and a half, as viral as that's gone, he's had millions of dollars thrown at him that he's turned down. A number of interviews that he's given, he's been very clear that he's not taking sides left versus right. That he's talking about struggle, and not to say we're trying to make him a forwardist, but we're trying, not that we would turn that away, but we certainly would welcome his input to a conversation and see how that national conversation would form, or what people might be attracted to that conversation. So
you got a really good angle, Christian. You could, if you can get him on the podcast, instead of saying, hey, a Ford party, you could just ask him, hey, we're a new political party. What would you tell us to do?
Yeah.
To represent the people that you wrote the song for. That would be perfect. So we're listening rather than telling.
Yes.
I think that'd be perfect. That's a
So
great
that's what
idea.
Holden and I are trying to figure out, if anyone in Virginia or North Carolina has any knowledge of him or connections to him, rather than just pinging his social media account. So if anybody else wants to be part of helping to that trail, but Holden's going to also direct message him with his social media account has enough status that he might get a response. So we'll
Very
see.
cool. All right. Thanks, guys. I got to go climb a mountain this evening.
Hey, all right. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Is it dark there yet?
No. Sunny bright. All right. See y'all.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap this up for everybody. Thank you all. Have a good night.
See you, everyone. Thank you.
Did you guys see that last comment in Beaver County, or in Beaver? It was Derek. I don't know where Beaver was, that the county or the town?
Beaver County is south of Pittsburgh.
Northwest.
North of Pittsburgh.
He's
Well, you know,
still on, if anybody wants
those
to-
people out west really count.
Hey, you're like central Pennsylvania.
that
right?
way.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. I'm like 2 hours. I'm 2 to 3 hours from every major city.
Anyway, I don't know Derek's last name. Maybe we can get some information to him.
Derek, I'm gonna drop my email here. I'm not all that far from you. In fact, I was up at Raccoon Creek State Park weekend camping. Get up that area quite a bit. So feel free to please message me. Let's connect. Let's figure out how we can organize Beaver.
Have a good night, guys.
There's a couple of races that we could get a couple of write-in amount of write-in campaign in that I have my eye on, especially in Freedom.
Well, that'll teach somebody to join a call with us. Next thing you know, they're going to be in office.
Right, Chris?
You showed up, you volunteered.
Yeah, that's right. See you guys.
All right. Have a good night.